So it's just one page. And I put LLC here. If you like, that's the most common type of corporation that most of you in this class. If it's a small business, it'll be an LLC. Like, you're not usually going to get to a C corporation until you're large, not small anymore. But I also put all types and then LLC. And then actually, if you are a not-for-profit, and everybody is in here has probably heard the phrase 501c3, right? No? Okay, so if you're a not-for-profit, usually you have what's called 501c3 status. And 501c3 is actually like clause 501, section C, item 3 of the legislation from Congress that governs the IRS. Make sense? So in the giant law that was passed by Congress about all the different details of what the IRS does, there's a little paragraph that says, if you are this kind of business, you don't have to pay federal tax. And that is between you and the federal government. Creating a corporation is always between you and the state. So I'm going to show you how to do it for California, but if you were in Nevada, you would register your corporation with Nevada. A lot of times corporations register in Delaware because Delaware, basically, it's like, you can do whatever you want. We don't care. But you don't have a contract between the corporation and the federal government. You always create the registration of the corporation is always with the state. Make sense? So if you want to be exempt from federal taxes, you have to fill out additional forms, and this is where you can get to them, okay? So I'm not going to go into the details of 501c3 filing, but I wanted to let you know if you're creating a not-for-profit, you start by creating it with the state, but then you also have to file some additional paperwork with the feds, okay? Okay, so all types, business entity, control, click. That will take you to this page right here. If you click on biz file, you need to create an account, okay? I have one already, so I'm going to log in with that. Uh-oh.
The website's not the greatest.
It was working fine before. I tested everything out before class. There, okay. So, business entities, liens, there's a lot of different things that go through the Secretary of State's business filing website, okay? I'm just going to teach you today about how to register a business. So under business entities, you go here to where it says register a business. And LLC is right up here at the top. So if you want to create an LLC, you're going to pick this one right here, Articles of Organization, California LLC. There's some other things here, like if you're converting from one type of corporation to another, you're going to use this form. If you are originally an out-of-state corporation and you want to create a corporation in California too, you fill out this one, but don't worry about a lot of the other buttons here. I'm just going to show you the ones that are usually relevant for you guys. Make sense? So if you're going to do an LLC, click there. If you're going to do a regular C Corp, large corporation, it's right here. Articles of Incorporation, California Corporation, General Stock. There's a lot of other types of corporations here. I'm not going to go into them today. That's the only one you need to know. Nonprofit. So mutual benefit, when I said it's a nonprofit that has members that pay dues, it's this one right here. And if it's a nonprofit that just has a mission and a board of directors, but no dues, that's my kind of business. Then my not-for-profit is called a public benefit. Okay? And so this is the one that doesn't have members paying dues, just grants and donations. And then this is the one that has members paying dues. And then going further down, there's a type of business that I'm going to talk about later in the semester when we're talking through the textbook called a cooperative. Anybody like familiar with the term cooperative?
Co-op.
Yeah, co-op. Same thing. Co-op is short for cooperative. So a cooperative is basically an alliance of a lot of small businesses. Okay. And there's a really cool example of co-ops in California, but I'm going to save it for when I go through the textbook. Okay. So since cannabis is now legal in California, it's a special type of collaborative if you're growing cannabis. If you're doing anything else agricultural, it's here. And if you're doing a cooperative that doesn't have to do with ag, it's here. Usually you guys are not going to be filing cooperative documents, and I'm not going to go through them today. But LLC or LLP, limited liability partnership. I'm not going to click through everything today, but I want to show you certificate of limited partnership. Basically, if you are a service corporation, so if you're a law firm, if you're an accounting firm, most of the time, if you're a consulting firm with lots of different partners, you have to actually be a limited liability partnership rather than a corporation. You'll see when we go through the details for filing, it asks you a question: do you deliver services? And if you deliver services, without partners, it's okay. But if you have partners that are all basically the experts, if you had a medical practice where all the doctors are partners, that also has to be a limited liability partnership. My sales consulting company does services, but it's me managing it and hiring people to do sales. I am not like partners with 20 other salespeople who are all the owners of the company. And I think even if I were, that falls outside the regulations for, it's usually certain types of professional services like accounting, being a doctor, being a lawyer, etc. Make sense? Okay, so I am just going to go through the LLC registration today. So right up here at the top, articles of organization, $70, not bad. The only problem is in California, you owe California $800 a year for the privilege of having a LLC, even if you don't make any profit. Even if you lose like $10,000, you lost $10,000 and you got to pay the state of California another $800. It's ridiculous. Most other states do not have that kind of setup, but be careful. Don't create an LLC until you're ready to pay for it. Like, as long as you realize every year, $800, then it's fine. And honestly, if you have any intention to bring on additional partners and investors and grow, you're going to need an LLC. But you have to realize that once you create an LLC, you have to plan in your budget every year. I got to pay $800 to keep it. Make sense? Okay, so file online. This first thing is a whole bunch of disclaimers and warnings that you have to go to the bottom and say, yes, I've read it. This is your information as the person filing. This is where you say, I am not a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. I am not doing professional services. Have you already reserved a name? So you can actually go in. I'll show you that at the end, but you can go in and actually search, does this name exist for a corporation in California? If it doesn't, and you're not ready to start yet, you can actually pay a little fee and you can reserve the name and then you can use it later. When I created mine, I just created it right away. So then you're going to actually type in the name of the company. Otherwise, if it's yes, then you're going to say what was the reserve name. Okay. Got to put in the address for where forms and documents go. Like basically, when I first created my corporation, I actually had my lawyer do it. So he filled out his address here, and then the address of the company went here. If you are managing everything yourself, then everything is the same. Make sense? Yes.
Look around.
What?
The mailing address would be the. And then the top one is the business address.
Oh yeah, sorry. I stand corrected. He actually filled out both for him, and then we had to fill out a little like statement of information to change it later. But yeah, you're correct. Like it could be your address already, or if it's your lawyer, they're going to put that there. And if for some reason you have, if you have a warehouse and that's the actual location of the business, but you don't actually want to receive the mail there, you want to receive it at your house, then you put two different addresses. Make sense? Okay. Agent for service of process. So if there's any official document that has to be sent from the state of California, you can either say yes, send it to an individual person, and this could be you, or it could be somebody else. You could also be a official registered California corporate agent. Most of the time it's going to be individual. Okay. You got to say whether you're going to have one manager or more than one manager. If you only have one manager, you don't get some of the same tax benefits. If you want the full benefits of a limited liability corporation, there has to be more than one owner. Okay. You can have an LLC with one owner, but it doesn't have, it's like a crippled version of an LLC. It's not all of the privileges. Make sense? Okay. And then you got to say when you're filing. You can either file right away or at some future date. If you've already put together, every corporation needs to have like basically operating procedures or like a contract among the owners for how is the business managed and regulated. The funny thing, the thing that drove me nuts when I was sitting in your guys' shoes, there is no logic to the regulations that California has for businesses. And for that matter, not just the state of California, in general, there's no logic. So you actually have to have like operating procedures, but you don't have to submit them. You just have to have them in case you get audited. So if you have them, which I would recommend, just do it all right the first time, you can go ahead and attach them here, and then you're good for later. But the funny thing is, it's not required. It's required if they check, but you don't have to send it in unless they ask you for it. This drives me mad that there's certain things that you have to do when you fill out and other things that you're held accountable for, but you didn't have to do to fill out the registration. Just accept that it is the way it is. There is no logic to it. Okay. So you can attach anything there that you want to, review and sign, pay the fees. Pretty straightforward. You can register an LLC or a corporation or a nonprofit in less than 30 minutes. Pay $70 and then just plan in your budget. So if you registered it now, you would owe $800 next April or next March, actually. Corporate taxes in California go in a month earlier. So March of 2026, you got to put a little reminder, I owe $800. But that's it, and you're done. And then once every couple of years, you have to confirm that the information is still accurate and up to date, and that's it. It's really not hard. But it's one of the things that, like, it's not hard, and it adds you're not going to make any more money because you have an LLC than you did otherwise. You're going to make money because you have a good business idea and you have a good relationship with your customers. But if you don't fill out the paperwork, it's like building a house on quicksand. Like, it's like building a house on land that doesn't have good foundation. Everything is going to be compromised because you didn't fill out the paperwork right. But the paperwork by itself does nothing. It just official makes everything official. Make sense? I've always found paperwork extremely frustrating because if I invest time and energy doing something, I want to feel like I got something of value. And all I really got was covering my ass. But you got to be able to do it. So it took me a long time to learn, like, where the hell do I go? What do I click on and how do I fill it out? So I wanted to make sure that's part of the class. It's pretty easy to do, but I wanted to show everybody how to do it once. Okay. I'm just going to now, and if you do this as a project, you're going to go all the way to the end and you're going to save it as a draft. Okay. Just like with any other login, you're going to ask the client what email address and password do they want to use. And then you're going to create the account with that. And then you go all the way to the end, save the draft, and then tell them it's ready to be paid for. Make sense? Or you're going to tell me, and then I'm going to look at it, and then I'll pass it on to the client. But all you got to do is get to the end of filling everything out and click Save Draft. Okay, if you want to create a sole proprietorship or a fictitious business name, here's the link for that. And that's with the county, not with the state, not with the city, is with the county. Again, don't ask me for why the logic is of what the logic of this. It just is what it is. So you can search here to see if somebody already has the name. So if we type in innovation, actually, here's my for-profit DBA. Here's my nonprofit DBA. But before I registered it, it didn't exist. So you always want to check, does somebody else have the name? Assuming that they don't, you're going to go down here to fictitious business name statement form. Okay. Fill this thing out. And if you're doing it as a class project, you're basically going to make sure that the client does it. You know, like, they can send you all the contact information, or you can just send them the form and they fill it out and send it back. Honestly, you don't have to do a whole lot of work at all as a class project, but if you're registering your own later, I wanted to teach you how to do it. Make sense? So you basically fill out a very simple form here. If you personally are doing a sole proprietorship, it's going to be individual. If it's a DBA for a corporation, you're going to put corporation. You're going to sign it and date it, and that's it. However, take it in to the county clerk's office in person. Okay, so you should tell the client that if you're working on the project. And whenever you finally create a sole proprietorship or a DBA, take it in person. I know it's like we live in 2025, like, you should be able to file these things online, but without fail, they find some problem with it and they kick it back to you if you send it in. So much easier to just go to the county clerk's office. It's right there on Truxton, next to the place where you do jury duty and everything. Just bring it in person after you filled it out. And then if there's anything wrong, they fix it for you on the spot. So other than recommending that you go in person and explaining the difference between which one of these radio buttons you click, it's very simple. And as a class project. In the past, I had the client send the information to you guys, but it's, they all know their information so well, it's almost faster for them to do it themselves. So you're really just making sure they do it. You know, that's why I combined it with some other business registrations into one project, because each thing doesn't take that long. So that's how you create a sole proprietorship or a DBA. I'm not going to actually go through how to do this, and it's not one of the class projects, but if you are selling a physical product, you also need to you need to get a sales and use permit. So my companies do a service, I don't have to have one. But if you sell laptops, if you sell like plastic bottles, you need a sales and use permit. And that, once again, is with the state. So I tried to log in to get, yes,
So does that apply to animals as well?
like if you're selling animals?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for the, probably.
Hmm.
Probably, but, you will find out one way or another by filling this out.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna go through it today more than anything because there's something wrong with my password, and like in the time I had before, after moving this stuff out of the apartment in Mojave before class, I couldn't fix the password problem. But if you do this even though I don't require it as a class project, I put the instructions in here, create an account, like select selling items or goods. And then you're basically this select any activities that apply. You're going to go through like 10 pages of questions like, do you sell explosive materials? No. Do you sell tires? No. Do you sell like adhesive equipment for use in industrial settings? No. Like the reason all those questions are there is because there's a law that was passed by the California legislature that there's special regulations for explosive stuff. There's special regulations for adhesives in manufacturing settings. So almost always you're going to click no for everything, but they put them all there in front of you so that if you are doing one of these categories, you need to click yes. And you'll probably see one for live animals. Okay.
Livestock.
What's
And
that?
if you- I said for livestock, and if you need a city and county permit, and you file your state permit, it registers and it sends a notification to the city, and they will send you a letter letting you know that you owe them money.
They most definitely will. And if you don't, and the last thing I'm going to show you,
$100 a day.
the last thing I'm going to show you, this is one of the projects for class, business tax certificate. So every business has to have a business tax certificate, and this is with the city, okay? So if, for example, you guys, if any of you live outside of Bakersfield City, you may have to file a business tax permit. It may be covered in other stuff in Kern County. You would probably register the business tax certificate with the county if you're outside of an incorporated city. Okay, but if you're in an incorporated city, each of them have different business tax forms. I'm just going to show you the one for Bakersfield.
And Bakersfield is weird because 93308 is unincorporated.
Yep. So there's lots of things that make no logical sense, but most people in Bakersfield, if you have a business, you're going to have to fill this thing out. So there's the link for that. And all you do, this is super simple. You go down to business tax certificate application, fill out the information. When you started, if you have a contractor's license of some kind, so that's only if you do construction trades and a couple of other things that require a contractor license. All other companies, you're just not going to fill that out. If you sell physical things, that's where the seller permit number goes. So if you didn't fill this out, you would get a letter from the city saying, hey, you should have filled this out. You owe us taxes. If you fill it out first, you're going to put your state sales and use permit number there. And you're going to estimate what you think your annual revenues are. So my business, my for-profit, like, I think I estimated 50,000, but I haven't made more than 10 or 15. I've been so busy with everything that revenue's been really low. So if you're below a certain number, they're not even gonna send you a bill. But you need to estimate because they get pissed off if you said you're gonna like make 10,000 and you end up making 100,000. Like then you do owe money and they want you to try to be accurate. So try to do a decent estimate here. And otherwise all the rest of it is standard fill in the blanks. Make sense? Okay.